Hello again, friends. Welcome back to Grow and Sew here on Seam of Consciousness, and welcome back to my craft room. If you're just seeing this for the first time, welcome. If we've met before, welcome back. Last time we chatted, I revealed a new design, as well as my intention for making a mock-up of this design in addition to the final dress itself. And we'll chat about the progress on the mock-up and my first attempts at officially tailoring the dress and making alterations. But first, I encourage you to get comfortable during our time together, and let's get cozy and slow down a bit. Let's release some tension in those shoulders by scrunching them up close to our ears and breathing in. And exhale as you release them down. Let's roll our shoulders backwards, and forwards. And let's take 3 big deep breaths. 1 to let go of the things we can't control. 1 to remember the things we can control. And 1 to bring us into the present moment outside of our own heads for a little while. There, that's better. First, to catch up on news, I am actually 2 whole weeks behind schedule on all of my projects. I went to an embroidery class at a quilt shop, and they actually ended up keeping my machine for a few days, actually closer to like a week and a half for repairs. And I was understandably upset about the whole thing, considering they told me they tested the machine before they sold it to me. And it became excruciatingly clear that that was not the case. The embroidery arm, whenever it was calibrating, made the most horrible squeaking sound you've ever heard. And this repeated over and over, "It's not supposed to sound like that." Well, great, thanks. So I learned a lot from the class, but I lost quite a bit of that momentum that I worked really hard to build over the last couple weeks, and I was really disappointed I wouldn't get to start practicing the embroidery right away. I was honestly kind of concerned that I was going to forget how to use it. And in general, not having my machine felt really weird, and it felt like a part of me was missing. And I know that sounds corny, but my craft room is my personal safe space, and the flow of my safe space came to this screeching halt with no notice. It was completely unexpected, and I've been pretty out of sorts without it, but I'm happy to say my machine is back and it is ready to roll. And so before my machine went in for repairs, I spent almost a whole day just about working on the mock-up for the green dress from the last video. And honestly, I think it's about as done as it can be for a mock-up. But I already know some places where alterations will need to be done on the final dress just based on the learnings from the mock-up. And some of these changes actually need to happen at the pattern stage when cutting out the fabric. So for example, right away when looking at the pattern, I noticed there weren't any darts in the bust. So what I mean by that is, you see this line of fabric here? This is what helps give shape to the bust. And on the mock-up, there's kind of gaps in the armpit where it looks like there's too much fabric. And part of this is my fault. We'll say that, because I clipped the curves on the front panels, because that's what I've always done. But these curves actually help give shape to the bust in addition to the dart. Secondly, I added an inch to the waistline when cutting out the front panels. So added an inch around the whole pattern piece. because the size chart had the size below mine listed as a size 16. So what I mean by that is I normally wear size 16 to 18 street size, but the measurements looked like they were going to be too small even for the size 16. And like I said, 16 is usually my street size, but it's always better to have more fabric and take it in than not have enough fabric and then you're just kind of SOL. And I found that some patterns tend to max out at size 16, and the ones that do max out at size 16 tend to run small. With size 16 going as big as the pattern goes, that pattern may not be, the pattern may be intended to be used for like smaller sizes on average. So what I'm saying is that they're, those who use the pattern may be more of like a size 8 or a size 10 or size 12, whatever. And the pattern maker may not be giving as much attention to what a size 16, person actually measures out to be. And in my opinion, from what I found, it's actually non-linear scaling from one size to another. And it's often being treated as being linearly proportional in these patterns. So for example, I had a crop top pattern that was size inclusive. It was like up to size 24, 26. And it expanded wider to accommodate the larger bust sizes. But it did not account for the fact that a larger bust sticks out more. And the bottom edge needs to come down further on the torso for a proportional amount of coverage. So the pieces were larger, but they were coming up higher on my bust. And it really needed that extra length down at the bottom that just hadn't been accounting for. And like sizing in general is always kind of a dodgy process, but it's better to be safe than sorry. And in your mock-ups and sewing in general, always include more fabric just in case. So kind of moving on, the other components turned out fine. However, I think I didn't hem the edge because I thought it was kind of a waste of time. But the skirt is beautifully flowy for being made of panels instead of being like a circle cut skirt. And it is a bit long, but like that's an easy fix. The straps, instead of just being a single spaghetti strap, I went ahead and made them tie straps. And so now I know exactly what to do for that. I know that the back strap needs to be longer than the front strap so it can tie and still sit properly. And I thought about experimenting with putting the zipper on the side. So this is the side here instead of the back, because I really kind of want to be able to zip my dress by myself. But I thought that would probably be better to save that experiment for another time when there's not so much of a looming deadline on it. Yeah, so that's the mock-up. But now we're going to kind of transition into something a little bit more challenging, and trigger warning here for discussions of body image. So I'll just ramble for a little bit to give you time to click away if you feel like you need to click away. Perfectly fine here. This was really kind of a mental challenge for me. I've been sitting with some pretty uncomfortable feelings because I don't look at my body in detail that often, like at all. And in this process, I've needed to sit with the discomfort of looking at my body so I can see what needs to be altered. And I can figure out how to do it correctly. I can figure out what the measurements are, like where's the apex, where does the waist need to be tucked in. And putting on An unfinished garment shouldn't open the door to so many insecurities, but holy crap, it does. And you think, wait, I'm not finished yet. No one's supposed to see it yet. This isn't actually like what this is supposed to look like. This is supposed to look a lot better. Why doesn't it look good? Why doesn't it look like it's supposed to? And, like, the answer is obvious. It doesn't look as good as it should because it's unfinished. It's like literally $3 a yard muslin. And in general, the alteration step is so unflattering, but it's so necessary. We're doing this process so that we can make the final product flattering. And you have to look at it in detail, which also means you have to look at your body in detail to know what the next steps are. And it's really hard to filter out the main thoughts during this analysis and when you're taking measurements. And like, you can be cold and calculating about it, like, well, this segment needs to be, taken in 1/2 inch and tapered to a point and for a length of 6 inches, which is also, 3 to 4 inches from this other piece, whatever. But how do you not simultaneously think, like, I want to take in this section because it emphasizes my lower tummy too much, or like this section isn't flattering to my bust, or this like makes my butt look flat, whatever. Like, altering a dress to be more flattering is literally adjusting its construction to emphasize your best features. But how do you account for the ugly thoughts that say even your best features can't be flattered? Or that even if it is flattering, the less flattering parts of you, your body, will always stand out anyway. In these thoughts, the body is the object of scrutiny, not the dress or not the garment. And these thoughts will always have you believe that your body needs to be altered, which is something that is so hard to do, and frankly shouldn't have to be done if you don't want to do it. Like, it's so much harder to change your body to accommodate mean and ugly thoughts than it is to make a dress or a garment that fits, that you feel confident in. And the hardest part of all is, sitting with these thoughts and trying to combat them and trying to prevent them. Like, I swear, that's harder than either one. That's harder than physically changing your body to accommodate the thoughts and making the dress itself. But there is a way to, that I'm coping with getting that process started. And in these moments, I have to remind myself that I'm doing something really kind of incredible here. I'm making a beautiful dress out of nothing but fabric and a zipper. I'm doing something hard. I'm trying new patterns, and I'm trying new techniques, and I'm facing my body image issues head on and moving forward in spite of ugly thoughts telling me that I can't be flattered. So, grace and self-compassion are the real winners here. The mock-up is a work in progress, and it should be treated as such. It's a place where mistakes can be made and lessons can be learned. Look at how look how messy these seams are. Look how giant this dart is. Imperfection is the rule, not the exception. The body is not the object of scrutiny. The mock-up is. And like disclaimer, I'm not saying I will have conquered my body image issues with this project, but I will be happy if I can take even just like one step towards body neutrality with it. And I'll keep you posted on how that goes. As always, it's a work in progress. You know, it's kind of taken years to even acknowledge that these issues are a thing and that there are ways to combat them. So stay tuned for more, my friends. Until then, be kind to yourselves. Extend yourselves an extra ounce of grace and self-compassion. Take care of yourselves. And know that I am proud of you, and I can't wait to see you again.